Hello, it's been a bit since I've made a video for my channel, but I promise it's only because I've been busy doing some really great stuff that I think you're gonna like. My name is Saremy Duffy, and I thought I'd introduce myself again since I am teaching at PatternCon this summer, and I want to tell you all about my classes and a bit about PatternCon. I may be new to you, or you might know me from one of many ways. Maybe you've hung out with me while I live stream sewing, or maybe you watched one of my how-to videos here on my YouTube channel. Maybe you know me from my online sewing community, Sew Guild, where I host a sweet space of curious sewists. They're all really awesome. Or maybe from one of the pattern sew-along videos that I make for companies like Cashmerette or Wardrobe by Me. Or maybe I've helped you through Sew Liberated as part of their courses, or maybe through email support for pattern fitting and drafting questions. You may even know me from my days as Chicken Boots, where I had a small factory making and designing accessories for fiber enthusiasts for 11 pretty amazing years. And before all of that, I worked in the garment and outerwear industry as a pattern drafter and designer. Most recently, I have been really busy writing a book all about fitting called Fitopedia. Just like it sounds, it's an encyclopedia of fitting adjustments, and it's almost done. It feels really good to say that to you and share that with you, and I am confident it will exceed your expectations. Well, I hope so. I really hope you'll get to see it at PatternCon. That's where I hope to show it first. That is my goal, but if not, it won't be too long afterwards. I promise. It really is on the home stretch, and it's a big project. But maybe you can't make it to PatternCon, and you'll get to see the book afterward. So let me tell you a little bit about my classes at PatternCon. My two classes are about fitting the bodice or a sleeve. Fitting affects everyone, no matter what size or shape, no matter their bust size, their height or age, whether they're fat or thin or petite or tall. Unless it's drafted for you, it might need some tweaks. Fitting may be an advanced skill, but it affects everyone no matter how skilled they are. So we all need to know how to do a little bit of it. There aren't any mysterious or tricky shortcuts when it comes to fitting. If there were, we'd know them by now. In fact, the fitting adjustments are the shortcut. Hundreds of years ago, we wore rectangles without complaint. Patterns we have now come with lots and lots of fitting devices like darts, shaped seams and curves, gathers. We are at the shortcut era of clothing. Pattern you are trying to fit may not fit you well, but it doesn't mean that you are wrong or that the pattern was drafted badly. It just means it needs to be fit to you. The pattern often comes in sort of a neutral state. It has to fit all the people that fit in that measurement of the size chart. And so some it'll fit really, really good, and others it just won't fit that great, even if they fit in the size chart. At PatternCon, I'm going to show you how to fit your bodice or sleeve on yourself using you as the dress form. Making fitting adjustments is honestly pretty easy and fun. The hard part is knowing which one to use and how to execute it without throwing something else off. Besides my fitting classes, there are a lot of other classes that you can look at taking, even if you don't take mine. There's some amazing instructors coming, everything from cosplay and vintage to projector sewing, fitting pants, lingerie, drafting and sewing. There is something for everybody. It's a really cool event. Please check the link in the description if you want to learn more about PatternCon. And hopefully you're going to see me there with a big old stack of books, and I really appreciate you being patient all this time. I know some of you have been less patient and you've let me know that, but it has kept me going, and I really appreciate knowing how excited you are about it. I am too. It has been definitely the hardest thing I've ever done in my career, and I'm very proud of it, but you know, it can't wait to see the world. So thank you for helping me get the word out about it. And I have a new newsletter, so please sign up for that in the description. And you can check out my community as well. It's free to join. There is a paid group if you're interested in fitting or sewing or drafting help. You can join my paid group, but the community itself is free, and it's a really great group of people. So let me tell you about my classes, because I'm really excited about teaching them and hanging out with people. So it's going to be really great to get you excited about fitting and less nervous about it. All right, so let's talk about some sleeve fitting. I love sleeve fitting. It's a lot like pants fitting in my opinion, and I love pants fitting too. Obviously not all garments have just a plain set-in sleeve, you know, that sits right here on the armhole or the armscye, but most sleeve fitting comes from this standard set-in sleeve. And if you can get the hang of this, all the other stuff is really easy. There's basically 3 armhole styles. There is the set-in armhole where the armhole mirrors your armscye on your body. There's a raglan where the armhole goes up to here. Usually it intersects the neckline in some way. There may or may not be a shoulder seam. And then there are cut-on sleeves where the sleeve is built onto the garment and it's a part of it. So there isn't a separate sleeve piece. There can be in cut-on styles, but the silhouette of the sleeve is basically grown onto the garment. Whether it's been seamed so that there's a separate sleeve there or not is the same kind of silhouette. It's just a different pattern piece. So there's these 3 kinds of sleeve styles. And the set-in is sort of the top of the pyramid and everything comes down from there as far as the sleeve family tree goes. So on this one, you can probably see exactly what's happening here. It's sort of, you know, pooling here in the armpit. It's not really that it's pooling, it's pulling up. It's sort of binding the armhole. You can see back here, see this little tuck right here. It's very uncomfortable, very tight under the arm here. And this is basically that the cap height is too short. If I were to unpick this seam from here over the armhole and then let it relax and sit down, we would see that it just needs some cap height. Now, I know that it's not that the armhole depth is wrong because the armhole depth on the bodice is fine. You can see it sits really nicely right along the armhole. Now, if it was an armhole depth, it would sit a little differently. It would notice other fitting strain lines and things. So yeah, so for this one here, this is a very easy one to sort of detect what you need to do. All right, so we got that unpicked. It's gonna be a little messy. So remember it was up here, right? And we see that binding under the arm. And when we relax it, we see that it relaxes that binding there. And we can see exactly the gap that we're missing from this seam to where it was sewn. And that's what we would add to our sleeve pattern. And look, the sleeve now is hanging nice. It's not doing this little whoop-de-doo here at the hem. That's another telltale sign that the cap is just too short and it's not being yoinked. And now, you know, it was being kind of yoinked up into the armpit. And now it sort of hangs without me even holding it in a really nice position. So that's a pretty easy fit. And what will happen with this fit, with this change, is that we're going to add a lot to the cap, which lengthens the seam line. So then you kind of get into the territory of, oh, do I have too much ease now for the sleeve and how do I adjust that? So some of these fitting adjustments do set off a couple of dominoes that you need to know how to react to. So. I have a couple bodices here that I thought I'd show you really quickly, a few things about what I'm going to show in the class. So here we have the Myosotis by Deer and Doe Patterns, and it is a dress. So this is just the bodice part of the dress. It has 2 darts in the front and 1 on each side on the back. There's no shoulder dart here. There's a little collar, and then it has a placket, and then it buttons closed here, just like this. So what is a good fit? That's a very subjective question. In my opinion, if you're comfortable and you like it, you've got a good fit. I'm pretty cavalier when it comes to what I think of as a good fit. And I think that's just because of my experience with fitting. There really is a lot of preference when it comes to what a good fit is, because there's a lot of style choices as well that you could make. And sometimes design and style get kind of entangled with fit. So you've got to sort of tease out what you think is a good fit for the pattern design that you're working on. So I usually, when I'm helping someone, I look at the photos on the models of the pattern and I look at how it's fitting them. I look at what their aim was, and that's my target. I'm going to be looking at how loose does it look, how fitted it is through the shoulders, you know, things like that. What is giving it the look of that pattern? And then I go from there. Now, you may have a desire to change something about that design, and that's completely okay. I think it's great when we sort of take the pattern into our own hands and make alterations to it to suit some of our design desires. But asking that pattern to fit that way without making those changes is a little unfair to the pattern. So the first thing I do is usually fit the pattern the way it's intended to fit by how it looks on the models. And then from there, I would make any tweaks to it if I want to change some of the design or the style. So with the Myosotis here, you know, at first glance, it probably looks like it's not too bad, right? But I sort of zero in on some of the landmarks. The first thing that you want to fit is the shoulders. Eyes up here, buddy. A lot of people really want to go right here, fit this bust area first. But the thing is, I can already tell that this shoulder here is fitting a little bit straighter than the person wearing it. It wants to sit a little higher. You can really see it on this side without the sleeve. The sleeve can mask some fitting issues, and that's okay. If you like the way it feels and it fits, it's okay that if you have with no sleeve and it looks like this, but when you're wearing it, you like the way it looks, that's fine. That's totally fine. You're not selling and designing patterns. You are fitting you. And that's different than if I were professionally drafting a pattern for someone or a client and I want to make sure I get the best fit possible so that it's at the best position for going out into the world and being worn. So do I like this right here? No, I don't like that at all. And you can kind of see that this shoulder is sitting pretty high above the wearer there. Now, if this is sitting high, and the change for this is we would cut this whole armhole off and we slide it down. And then what happens is that shoulder slope gets closer to the body and this armhole drops down right here. And what does that do? That will slip all of this down. So this dart looks really high for the apex. Here's the apex right here. The dart is ending here. Here's the apex. So once we change that shoulder, that's going to all slip down a little bit. Only because right now it's being pulled a little bit. So you can kind of see that starting up here may affect everything below it. And maybe it won't, you don't know. So it's best to start from the shoulders because the shoulders are like the coat hanger. That's where everything's gonna hang. And I always look at it and go, all right, I tug it, I make sure that it's seated on the body, I get all my centers correct. I look here, I make sure it's hanging without me forcing it to hang in that position. If I can get it to hang on the body without any pins, that's the ideal. And I can kind of tell then, all right, this is how it's going to sit. Now, obviously the dress form kind of lies a little. She's not breathing, she's not moving around, and she can kind of give us a false sense of what is fitting really well here because she's a statue. But on you, you can immediately start feeling things. You can go, I feel something right here. It feels like it's binding here. It feels a little loose here. I don't like the way this feels. And I may not be able to see that. So that's when fitting yourself as a dress form comes in really handy. The other thing I see right here is this pulling, and that is tied to that shoulder issue there. That's going to help. And the other thing I notice is the collar sort of flaring not equally around. So maybe I would look at changing the shape of the collar by maybe even pinching a tiny bit out right here and sort of trying to get that collar to stay the same distance away from the neck and look a little more evenly distributed. With the weight of a skirt on this, it's going to feel a lot different and it's going to make things change a little bit. But at least we know from this point in this neutral state what we're sort of working with. But I tell you what, I think just making this one shoulder change would impact the whole fit of this garment so nicely. And one of the ways I can sort of simulate this adjustment is I'm going to remove the collar here. And now I'm going to unpick the shoulder so I can let this sit a little bit lower. Now, when we make this change, we don't actually add anything here at the neck. This is one of those really sneaky changes where it comes from just changing the tip of the shoulder and just lowering the whole armhole, and that will pull the slope of the shoulder down. But we can sort of fake it by opening it up like that. And we can still see how it's winging out, and that's just because we don't have the full shape of the shoulder slope. I'm gonna go all the way to the seam allowance, which is right about here. And there we can kind of see that now that this is hanging a little flatter, we're getting a nice smooth front here. And it already just looks like it's not choking the top of the shoulders here. Like I said, you wouldn't add here. I know it looks like I just added a huge wedge right here, but what you would really do is just cut this armhole, lower it, and then this point here would actually end here rather than ending way up here. And what's happening is it just can't settle on the shoulders, and that's what you want to do. Lastly, I have the Silka blouse by Wardrobe by Me. And again, you can kind of clearly see a couple of things happening here. This almost makes me think that maybe I chose the wrong size, or I could have probably blended between the shoulders and the bust between a couple of sizes. And I knew the high bust measurement for the pattern. When a pattern has the high bust measurement, you can always pick a little more accurately when you know what cup size they're drafting for and what the high bust measurement is compared to the full bust, because it'll help you get a nice shoulder fit, which, like I say, is always the key to starting off the fitting really well. But here we have this one. We can kind of see it's really snug across the shoulders here. And maybe that's because it's a little tight in front, but I don't think so. I see this right here going across the armhole. And, you know, it doesn't look so bad with the sleeve on it, but this isn't a real person, so it can lie a little bit. And I'm gonna cut this one so you can kind of see what happens when we have this really strong little gape right there, and you can kind of see it rippling. This seems to me more than just not having some shoulder shaping. Well, it doesn't have shoulder shaping, and that's why it's doing that. So if we were to cut, and I'm gonna start at the seam line. We always work on the seam line. We'll go straight across. Right there. And so now when I pull this down, just let it relax a little bit. You can kind of see already it looks less taut. And we're going to get a little bit of gaping because there is no shaping there still. All we did was lengthen the center back, but we've reduced the strain. See how nice and relaxed it is now, just with that little bit right there. It doesn't take much. That's the thing with fitting adjustments. It really takes very little to make a big impact. And if we wanted, we could draft in a little shoulder dart here, and it would get rid of that gape there pretty easily. So there's lots of options there, depending on how it feels when you're actually wearing it and fitting it yourself. You may not even notice anything back there. So it just depends. And then here in front, I would say, you know, there's no dart shaping on this, so depending on how this actually feels and hangs on the person, you might be able to draft in a dart, and that might improve the overall shape and the way it's hanging in front. And we can see that this one, it either needs more cup shaping here, or it needs a cup, and that may be all it needs. And we can cut this one as well. We cut up to the apex, and we're gonna move over to the armhole there. And then when we let it relax, we can kind of see it stops pointing at the bust there. But see how sloppy it gets right about here? So then maybe what we're doing is picking that up with a little bit of a dart. And we can add in that dart just like that. So then it's hanging a little bit nicer. And we can kind of see it's still a little tight through here. Maybe that would relax it a little bit. It just wouldn't take very much to get that to hang a little nicer. You can kind of see it just got rid of that gape over there at the armhole there just by utilizing it for a little bit more cup shaping, or honestly just a little bit more bust shaping and creating an actual cup, because right now it's a flat piece of paper. There is no cup shaping, and so if we can create some, that will help it hang a little better. And that's what it's fitting is all about, is how is it hanging? Is it relaxed? Is it pulling? Is it straining? What's the difference between a loose wrinkle and a straining wrinkle, and learning how to read those wrinkles and knowing what to do with them. But already, you know, you can see that just those couple of cuts help it hang a lot better. It's pretty amazing. So fitting is a lot of draping and pattern drafting, and that can be pretty intimidating and a little bit of an advanced type of skill. It's not impossible, and it's just kind of learning what you want and what to ignore and how to make that change so you don't affect the rest of the pattern in a negative way, so that you don't get yourself into a pickle. All right, well, that's a little intro about my classes and sort of my teaching style and a little bit about some of the fitting we're going to talk about. And with the sleeves, we're also going to talk about those other armholes. And I'm going to have little miniatures for you to play with and give you some exercises to try out with a handout. And you'll be able to sort of start looking at, okay, if I cut this here, how does this impact the rest of my garment? And just start that kind of thinking of what is going to give me the length or the circumference I need or the shaping that I need, and how do I need to do damage control. So we're going to talk all about that. And this is the second year for Pattern Con, and I went last year just as an attendee to see what it was all about. I didn't want to miss out on anything pattern related. I love everything pattern drafting, and it's very exciting to see an event like this at all. I've been to lots of different kinds of conferences from the garment industry, the outdoor industry, the knitting industry. I've taught at Sew Expo, and I can tell you Pattern Con is the most different conference I've ever been to in the most bestest way. The vibe is unmatched. Everyone there is so excited about what we do. We're all at varying levels of ability. You will meet people from around the world, around the United States, and you are going to have an amazing time. And I think the one thing that really sets Pattern Con apart is the camaraderie and sort of moving through the weekend together as a group, but not in a way that will make it feel like it's clingy at all. You know, when there's no classes, we all congregate in the same room and there's giveaways and speeches and fun little things. There's vendors in there. And then during class, if you have one, you know, we all go off to our classes. So you're never missing out on anything. And you don't have to be there for all of everything that's going on. But it's only like a day and a half. So it's a whirlwind of fun. And I highly recommend checking it out if you're really loving sewing and you want to sort of meet other people that are ridiculously excited about sewing and fitting and pattern drafting. And there are amazing teachers there. Even if you don't take my class, check out all of the classes that are there. If you're into cosplay or projector sewing, lingerie making, pants fitting, like everything is there. It's an amazing lineup of instructors. I love the classes I took last year. I took a Padding Your Dress Form class from Brooks and Camper, and I took Trisha Camacho, who is the hostess and the organizer of Pattern Con. I took her origami pattern drafting class, and they were both very excellent. So I had such a great time, and I'm really excited to meet people this year as an instructor, hopefully with my Fitopedia book in hand. I'm just excited to fit things with you and see you at Pattern Con. So check out the link in the description. There's all kinds of information and some links to Pattern Con. You can still sign up for it, and it's an all-inclusive weekend. So usually you get to rank the classes that you want, and hopefully you get them all. And I hope you start seeing more of me now that I'm trying to get this book across the finish line. So thanks for being patient with me. You know, sign up. I'm going to have a newsletter again. So please sign up for that. You can join my community. It's free to join my community. There is a paid group there if you're wanting assistance with fitting or pattern drafting or sewing. I have one paid group that you can join, and I have workshops 4 times a month that are just open, kind of like open office hours. You can come to those. But hopefully you're gonna start seeing me kind of come up for air now and interact with y'all more once this book is done. And I'm starting to try and pave the path for marketing that now. So I appreciate you helping me get the word out and for watching the video. Thanks for coming.